Have you ever felt like you're in love and completely trapped at the same time? As if that love that was supposed to set you free was actually silently suffocating you? We grow up believing that love heals everything. But no one tells you that sometimes it makes you sick. That sometimes what we call love is just emotional dependency disguised as connection. And that "I can't live without you" might be the beginning of a sentence, not a love story. The problem is no one teaches you how to tell the difference between a deep bond and a weight that pulls you under. We get involved, we idealize, we romanticize, and before we know it, we're begging for affection, losing our glow, confusing crumbs with passion. You're not to blame for being trapped, but you're responsible for getting out. Because yes, it's possible to love and still lose yourself, to give your whole self and still never feel like enough. And if you feel like you love too much, maybe what's keeping you stuck isn't love at all. Maybe it's the lack of love for yourself. In this video, you're going to understand why some relationships feel like anesthesia in the beginning, but turn into poison later. You'll discover the hidden triggers of emotional dependency, how to identify cycles of neediness, and most importantly, how to begin breaking free with clarity, awareness, and personal power. No more mistaking passion for prison. No more clinging to people who only show up to keep you caged. It's time to wake up. And maybe, just maybe, what's holding you back is already inside you. Is there anything more cruel than loving someone who slowly destroys you and still not being able to leave? When emotional dependency mixes with a distorted idea of love, you start accepting crumbs, believing in empty promises, and mistaking passion for punishment. It's not that you're blind. It's that you were taught this was the best you could have. They break you, then offer glue, and you thank them, because deep down, you think that love is this, shrinking yourself to fit into someone else, even if it means losing who you are. And the most twisted part, sometimes you still miss them, because the addictive pain of toxic love feels more familiar than the emptiness of being alone. People in abusive relationships don't realize right away that they're inside a cage. It's subtle, it's daily, it's psychological. First comes control disguised as care, then criticism dressed up as honesty, until it turns into manipulation and guilt. You start letting go of small things, a hobby, a friendship, a shirt you love, then your voice, then your light, until one day you look in the mirror and don't recognize yourself anymore. But leaving isn't easy, because emotional addiction is real, just like a drug. And the worst part, no one sees it. Everyone just says, "Why don't you just leave?" As if it were simple, as if it weren't a war between the memory of affection and the torture of absence, as if emotional dependency didn't take root in the fear of being alone. Breaking free feels like pulling out a thorn buried in your chest. It bleeds. It hurts. It feels like you're not going to survive. But you must. Want a place to start? Burn everything that ties you to that cycle. Messages, photos, objects. Ritualize your release. Make a list of all the lies you accepted as truth, and read them out loud until you feel the rage. Scream if you have to. Cry everything you didn't let yourself cry. But don't fool yourself. This isn't about the end of love. It's about the beginning of reconstruction. Because what comes after this fall is exactly where the next hell begins. Your relationship with yourself. The truth is, no one rises from an abusive relationship already feeling strong. Self-esteem doesn't come back with a compliment or a pretty quote from a self-help book. It comes back when you stop trying to be who the other person wanted you to be and start rebuilding yourself with your own hands. It's like renovating a house that was destroyed on the inside, but still looks whole from the outside. You might smile, but inside, you're in ruins. And the hardest part isn't even rebuilding. It's looking at the wreckage of your identity and realizing how much of yourself you erased just to be loved. The truth is, self-esteem isn't born from applause. It's born from pain. Building self-worth isn't about liking what you see in the mirror. It's about recognizing yourself in it. It's about looking at your own reflection and saying, "I'm enough," even when everything around you screams neediness. Even when your heart aches for a love that's gone. Even when the fear of being forgotten keeps you up at night. Self-esteem isn't a switch that flips. It's a muscle you build. Want a practical exercise? Pick one day a week to do something just for you. Not out of obligation, not to post on social media, but to remind yourself that you deserve it. A massage, a good book like The Gifts of Imperfection, a movie you love, even if you hated it. Relearning to love yourself also means saying, "This is mine." And yes, you'll have setbacks. There will be days when you'll check their profile, cry, wonder if you should have tried harder. And that's okay. That doesn't erase your progress. Because every time you choose not to shrink yourself, you grow 1 inch on the inside. That's what self-esteem is. Standing back up in the middle of the storm, even when you're not sure the sun will come back. It's showing up for yourself. It's looking at yourself with respect, even while you still miss them. And when the sun does return, when silence finally turns to peace, you won't recognize yourself because you'll no longer be the one who begged for love. You'll be someone new, someone stronger, and you'll be ready to uncover what truly held you back all along. And maybe, just maybe, it had more to do with you than with them. Emotional neediness doesn't scream. It whispers. It shows up in the emptiness you feel, when your phone stays silent, when no one asks how you're doing, when you realize you've been giving too much and receiving almost nothing. And the worst part? It tricks you. It makes you believe you need someone to feel whole. It makes you romanticize crumbs. And suddenly, you're calling someone your soulmate, when really, they just showed up to fill a hole. Because that hole is old. It came before your last relationship. It's rooted in things you've never had the courage to face. A lot of people spend their entire lives trying to numb emotional emptiness with distraction. A new fling, a dose of seduction, another short-lived relationship. But nothing fills what you still refuse to care for. Because emotional hunger isn't about missing someone else. It's about being absent from yourself. And the more you run from it, the louder it grows. Want to know if your neediness is running your life? Ask yourself this. If this person left today, what would be left of me? If the answer is nothing, then maybe you've abandoned yourself, just to avoid being abandoned. And that's heavy, I know, but it's also freeing. Because when you understand the root of your emotional dependency, you stop handing someone else the responsibility of saving you. You don't need a savior. You need a reunion. And that reunion happens in silence, in stillness, in voluntary solitude. You know those Sundays you used to spend suffering over someone who didn't text back? Use them for you. Cook, write, walk, breathe. Because it's in that contact with emptiness that the chance to hear yourself again is born. And only then do you become ready to use self-awareness as your greatest tool for healing. There comes a moment when you get tired of emotionally surviving, tired of begging for love, of depending on a message, of calling it passion when it was always just confusion. And in that exhaustion, a choice is born. Either you keep sabotaging yourself, or you start facing yourself. Self-awareness is that uncomfortable mirror that shows what hurts, but also reveals the way forward. And there's no emotional healing without it. Because as long as you don't understand what's making you repeat the same patterns, you'll keep calling destiny what is actually just a lack of awareness. Truly knowing yourself is understanding why you love too much, why you settle for too little, why you cling to people who don't choose you. It's asking yourself the hard questions. Why do I keep going back to those who hurt me? What do I believe about myself that makes me accept crumbs? This dive into yourself isn't pretty. It's not gentle. It's not cute, but it's liberating. And once you start, there's no turning back. Want to practice? Start by writing down your emotional triggers. What irritates you? What overwhelms you? What tears you down? That will teach you more about yourself than any advice from outside ever could. Self-awareness is the therapy no one can do for you. It's the moment you stop chasing external answers and start asking the right questions inward. That's when healing truly begins. Because the pain changes its place. It stops being your tormentor and becomes your teacher. You begin to understand that the abusive relationship, the emotional dependency, the screaming loneliness were only symptoms. And what truly heals you isn't time, it's clarity. And with that clarity comes the possibility of experiencing a love that doesn't trap you, that doesn't erase you, that doesn't require you to die to be chosen. But first, you have to learn to choose yourself. That in '01 warns you that after an abusive relationship, you go into mourning. It's not the mourning of death, but of absence, of someone who still breathes, still posts, still exists, but is no longer there. And that messes with your mind. Because this ending has no funeral, no ceremony, no closure, only silence. And in that silence, you find yourself missing someone who hurt you, and you feel guilty for it. This is the grief of someone who's still alive. And maybe it's the most brutal kind, because there's no goodbye strong enough, no anger that's enough, no love left that can fix it. You wake up in the morning, waiting for a message that won't come. And when it does, sometimes it hurts even more. You catch yourself remembering the voice, the touch, the promises, even knowing they were lies. And still your chest aches. Longing blends with shame, with guilt, with emotional dependency. And no one gets it. Everyone just says, move on. But how do you move on when you haven't buried what's still living in your mind? How do you let go of someone who left you trapped inside yourself? This grief needs to be felt without rushing, without shame, without self-punishment. You need to cry over someone who hurt you. Yes, you need to allow yourself to remember so that one day you can forget. There's no healing without grief, and there's no rebirth without burying what's left of the pain. Do it in your own way. Write a goodbye letter. Make an end of it all playlist. Create a symbolic altar and close the cycle, because as long as you pretend it doesn't hurt, it will keep hurting. And worse, it will keep repeating. Because when grief isn't lived, it turns into a pattern. And then you trap yourself all over again, just with a different name, a different face, a different prison. And now tell me, are you really going to keep calling it love when it only exists through pain? Are you going to keep justifying their absence, accepting crumbs, clinging to stories that shrink you? Or are you finally ready to flip the switch and decide you deserve more, so much more? Because no one's coming to save you. No one is going to give you the love you refuse to give yourself. The choice is yours. Keep sabotaging yourself in the name of a distorted fairy tale. Or start, today, writing a new story where you are the main character, not some extra in someone else's fantasy. If this video stirred something in you, if it made you rethink your relationships, if it gave you that strangely good ache in your chest, then share it with someone else who needs to hear this. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and stay with me on this journey of emotional freedom and self-awareness. Because here, we don't romanticize pain. We turn scars into clarity, and you're never again going to lose yourself for anyone.